All right, cool. All right, cool. We're live.
We are live.
I can always edit it later, but yeah, let's jump into it, man. So, I guess first, what I want to do before we go into any topics is just kind of I just want to get to know you a little bit better. So,
All
are
right.
you well? First of all, how do you know Chris? I guess that's kind of how we know each other.
Yeah. So Chris and I both go to UWM, and I am currently in a IT ethics class with him. And he is the loud, boisterous one in the front of the class that I heard him talking about shit, and I'm like, oh, this guy seems to be at least have like a rationale behind his thought. He's not just like blurting out and being obnoxious. So he
So,
seems like an
interesting. So
interesting guy to talk. Yeah.
you said IT ethics. That's the class y'all met in.
Yeah.
Okay, because I did notice that he was in IT, and I did notice from your profile that you're in IT. I'm actually an IT intern as well, so that's cool that we had that intersection. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, that's cool that y'all have an ethics class. I guess that gives more of a an opportunity to speak out and kind of talk about these things. I know in our episode last week we went into a lot of the ethics behind technology and censorship and security and privacy and all this kind of stuff. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So what? So are you in school full time? Are you working as well? Are you doing IT work?
I was doing IT work. I recently had an internship end like right before the new year. But up before that, and I was working for this company for about 3 years doing just very light IT work.
Right.
It wasn't anything it was important to them, but like it wasn't something that the IT department was like letting me get in with them. It was like a
I,
side job for them.
I totally feel that. Like I'm on a help desk, and so I basically like I do support for the company, and I'm kind of like the frontline infantry. Like I do help the company. It's like important stuff that needs to be done, but it's also there is like a separation between the help desk and the rest of the IT department, like the developers and the business analysts and all
Right.
the data analysts and all that stuff. They're over there in their own place, and I get to interact with them, and it's been a great experience to learn about like how companies work in general and how IT departments work. But yeah, I definitely craving to get them more involved. Um,
Yeah.
so
The
what is your interest like within IT? Like what kind of pathway are you taking? Do you like more of the security, or do you like to develop? What do you like?
Well, right now I'm going to school for IT management, so I'm hoping to be sort of like the top level person, sort of like directing everybody else, but letting everyone else use their specialty in the way they can do it best,
Exactly.
while helping a company move in a certain direction. Because my original major was industrial engineering, which is more along the lines of the interconnection between all the different engineering disciplines. So then
Right.
you can have a mechanical person and a bio and a chemical engineer talking
Right.
to each other, sort of like with me as a mediator, because I have an understanding of both of the worlds, at least a little bit enough to help them communicate more so.
Right. So that's something I started to notice is that I think within the professional world in general, you have two kind of divisions. You have the generalist and the specialist. Like, so the specialists typically are like the programmers and so forth, who will that they'll get really good at a particular skill, and they'll end up making a lot of money because they're good at it. Whereas the generalists end up kind of becoming like what you're saying, the managers and whatnot. And in our department, for example, there's about 30 people in our IT department, and there's like a CIO who kind of manages the whole thing
Mm,
as more the generalist. And I definitely I kind of relate to that a lot. I see myself kind of moving towards that role as well, kind of taking like the overarching kind of perspective and being more of a leader and whatnot. So that's interesting that which I studied programming, but then I kind of wanted to go in this direction. So it's interesting to see that there's actual majors for that.
yeah, it's more along the business school, so.
Yeah.
You learn to be more of like a business person with it, but then we took like I've already taken two programming classes, so I'm probably going to be taking like a third or fourth
Word.
for this major. So you
That's
don't get in as deep as a computer science major, but you get enough to
yeah.
learn how to think like a programmer.
That's pretty dope. So, like, do you have any particular like companies or industries that you're trying to shoot for? Do you really care at this point, or are you kind of just like what direction do you see yourself going in terms of that?
I mean, ultimately, Apple would be. I really liked the Apple company as a whole, and just I like the way they think. The more I use their products and the more I learn about IT, I see the value in them.
Yeah,
And
I'm the opposite. I'm totally the opposite.
hmm
I saw that Chris had a Mac on his podcast, and I was just like shake my head. I so like at work, I have my hands on both. We have like a lot of iPads and iPod or iPhones, and I've used them before, but I just disagree with like Apple. I see so many things in the way they design their stuff, and yeah, the way they design their stuff, their philosophies as a company, like the whole like kind of the way they market and stuff, it's just all like bleh, like I don't like it.
Yeah.
That's some of my perspective, but I understand and I can appreciate the alternative
Yeah,
perspective.
I definitely get the whole hate for Apple just because when we're coming from the Windows and the Android side, it's just completely different. Like looking at how they manage everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
But like,
I guess maybe it's just a difference kind of thing. It's not not one better than the other necessarily.
yeah, like I still have a Windows laptop just because it's the better of the two for me right now.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, sometimes there's different tasks that that one may be better suited for, or you may just be in a situation where you just have what you have. It all depends. But in general, I feel like the other company, like Apple, one of the things I notice that they do is that they try to monopolize everything, and they do so
Hmm.
to like it's understandable, in a capitalistic system to try to do that. But like I think they do it so much that they basically their product's not as good. So like as a on the opposite side, you have like Windows and Android and Google and all of these other companies working really well together as like third-party companies and whatever. But yeah, Apple just tries to like make their own version of everything, and it really just, I think it just, I don't like it. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's weird.
I understand that for sure. Especially like once you get into the groove. Like I really like using Todoist as a task manager, and it's really annoying to have to like manage integrating that with different things when I could just be using the uh, what is it called? Apple Reminders. Who uses that shit?
Yeah, exactly.
And so like I get the reason why they do it is just because they want to have an entire experience for their customers who don't want to go into a third party system.
Yeah.
But like for people who actually know tech and know the different options out there, it can be really annoying and I get that.
Yeah, I've always used the
Oh,
analogy of like, there it goes. I've always used the analogy of like, kind of like having a car. Like some people want a car that they don't have to look at all. Like they just want it to be packaged for them, ready to go, and as simple as possible. And then some people they want a car that they can get under the hood, that they can actually make adjustments, make modifications, and make upgrades.
yeah,
And
that
I definitely could see that as being the kind of difference.
that's definitely a very good example of not example, a very good analogy for Apple and everything else.
Your hinges are going ham right now.
I know they're not. I don't know what's going on. Okay. How
It was looking fine. It was,
it was, and then it just decided to fall. Fuck it. We're just gonna have it sit.
I'll have a studio at some point. We'll fly you in to
So,
Atlanta. So
ooh,
where y'all from again?
I'm originally from Illinois, and then I moved to Milwaukee for
Mil-
school.
Milwaukee. I don't even know. Like Milwaukee's a city
Wisconsin.
in Wisconsin. Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where you went for
It's
school. Okay,
yeah, it's the second biggest city in the state, I think.
interesting.
I think
Uh,
Madison's the biggest.
I don't know too much about that area, honestly. Like I'm not very well traveled. I grew up, I live in Atlanta now. I grew up in a small town about an hour and a half outside of Atlanta in Georgia.
Hmm.
So in the South, I've never really traveled much around the country. I've only been out of the country like one time to Europe, but I wonder like what the differences are like there. Like I mean, I guess I don't know if you're too familiar with the South. I'm not too familiar with your area. Um,
My grandparents used to live in Canton, Georgia?
oh yeah, that's very close to where I am. Yeah, I'm very familiar with that area. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So I went down to Georgia at least 5 or 6 times just growing up. It
Okay.
wasn't a very common thing.
So
Uh,
so one thing I can think of that might help to kind of highlight the cultural differences is like religion. Like, are people up there very religious in general? And if so, like, what denominations do you see? Like,
well, Wisconsin's a very different state compared to everything else. Like if you look at Illinois, Michigan, like the two like bigger states like near us, they're both very left and progressive and just like are losing like the religious importance in the community for them. And whereas Wisconsin is, if you go anywhere, there's a good chance everyone you're sitting around with is Christian,
so
especially once you get out of the cities.
that's what I was about to say. So, like, in these places, what you said to the left and right, for example, like that, those are areas where it's more left and liberal. Is that in the rural areas as well and the cities, or
Oh no! So the only reason Wisconsin was a blue state during the last elections was because of Madison and Milwaukee. They're the two biggest populations in the state, and they make up enough people to turn the state blue over
right?
the
So
all the all the rural cities around us are all very, very
That's
red.
very interesting. Like no matter what, of course, you're going to see that. You're going to see the urban areas are more left leaning, and the rural areas are more right leaning.
Hmm.
So it's interesting to see how what like you said, what makes some states go blue, because every state has that kind of divide. So it's just a matter of maybe like how many people are living in the city versus the rural areas and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's very interesting.
It's I mean, I don't know how do you lean? Because I'm leaning these days more conservative, but with some I'll call it libertarian ideas for the most
Yeah,
part,
yeah. So
right
yeah,
in that area.
yeah, absolutely. That's definitely a good segue into the kind of whole political spectrum. So I definitely see myself leaning more conservative, more right leaning nowadays. Definitely when I was younger, it was more left to kind of contrast my parents, to kind of contrast some of the like the negative components of the right, like the conservative right, like the bigotry and the latent racism and
Yeah.
the religious fundamentalism and stuff like that. But then, I start to become left leaning. I start to be, uh, especially because the left has a lot of really one of the big things for me. I've never been too politically involved in general, but just like cannabis, for example, like drugs. Like I
Hmm.
was like I that was one of the before I came across like cannabis and psychedelics. I was not very like I wasn't even very. I didn't have many ideas of my own. I didn't really know what was going on. I was in my own little bubble world, and so like that was my first exposure. So that was one of my first interests politically. And then from there, I started to understand more about economics and stuff. And as soon as I started to pick up stuff from that direction, I just started to go right leaning. I started
Oh
in
yeah.
general, but I definitely see myself as being like libertarian. Definitely like prioritizing like freedom, because I think that for me that the idea of freedom like aligns heavily with what nature is. Like nature is like a free. It's the jungle. It's
Uh,
Darwin. It's like
hmm.
Darwinism. So really, my goal is to be like politically Darwinistic and almost as much extent as possible. But there should be some regulations and whatnot.
Oh, absolutely. I found it very interesting that you were saying how when you first started, you were thinking about fighting against all the bigotry and the religious like point of view that they have
Right.
typically on the right.
Right.
And I think that was definitely true when we were like growing up. Like early on, that's sort of how you viewed the right. That's how you see like this side of the uh, argument always seems to have these kind of thoughts about different topics or whatever. Let's just take gay marriage as an example.
Right.
They were very against it, which without really even what I would call a good reason in terms of just
Yeah.
like letting people just do what they want.
Just not
Because
understanding it and just having just kind of mostly that, just not really understanding it and just feeling like it's somehow affecting them negatively or whatnot. Disagreeing with the lifestyle. But it's like that's okay. Like you can disagree with it, but like they want to do it and they're not hurting anybody, right? So,
yeah,
absolutely.
and then I feel like the more like at least now especially the left has turned from wanting things to be equal and fair to things being overly correct and then not overly correct, overly politically correct, and then
Exactly.
also not wanting anyone to be able to climb above anybody else, so then everyone's sort of
Yeah.
more
It's
even. It's
honestly
becoming more, yeah, it's becoming more socialist now than it was before,
Yeah,
which
I'd
is
say
very
yeah.
weird.
The left is I said it yesterday, like when I was talking to a friend. The left is like essentially it's delusional. Like these ideas of equality, these ideas of political correctness, these ideas of like I'm entitled to all this stuff and we should just give handouts to everybody. It's just like it's a vacuum ideology. It's not practical at all. It's completely delusional. And
Hmm.
it's basically just people who are on the bottom, just like trying to change the system rather than operating within the system to build themselves up. They want to just destroy the system, or they want to try to change the system just to benefit them. Like they just get mad at rich people
Hmm.
for being rich. Like it's rather it's there's a lot of shitty ideas, and you brought up some good points. Yeah, like and that's what I started to realize. Like the whole like what I consider the SJW movement too. Like the whole like I said, like I started out wanting to combat the bigotry and the racism of my parents and the older generation, and I hated that.
Right.
And so I considered myself like a social justice warrior. Like I wanted to fight for social justice,
Hmm.
and that's why the word SJW can kind of be misleading. But the way that I use it nowadays is people who it's like they started out trying to fight for social justice, but the ways that they do it is counterproductive to their own movement, and to everybody else. Like for example,
Exactly.
rather than trying to fight for true equality, like for example, rather than trying to fight for true equality, they would rather create inverse racism. Like they would rather oppress the white. They'd rather oppress the white people. Like they'd rather, that's like the white males. Like they don't want equality. They want to create inverse racism essentially. And it's just like it's so problematic and it's so hypocritical, and I have such a problem with it.
And then when you try to point it out to them that it's reverse racism, as you were calling it, they get really mad about it. It's like, how could you possibly think that that's what this is? But like, if you replace black with white, then it's immediately racist.
Yeah, so that's the thing about it, is that like what I just heard, like whatever you said, that what it made me think of is just the fact that whenever you say things to them in general, or you try to point out what they do, there's no logic or rationality in their minds. Their entire form of thinking, and that's why I've brought so much attention to this like SJW problem. Because literally their brain, it's like there's no logic, there's no rationality. It's all emotional triggering. I talked about it in the podcast last time. I've talked about it a lot. I use there's a certain model that I use to understand like consciousness, and there's within this model there's essentially like two modes of thinking. There's more, but there's two that I highlight. One is the emotional triggering, black and white, very simple, fighting type of thinking. The other one is more of the rational, logical, calm discourse. And with all these leftists, man, it's just, of course there's people on the right who don't think either, but it's such a problem with the left. I swear.
It's just definitely more prevalent when you're talking. It's more likely to happen when you're talking to someone on the left.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's one thing another model that I've kind of developed to help me kind of understand the different kind of political stereotypes that we see. So there's five main. I need to get a camera so I can like talk with my hands. My hands are down. I talk with my hands a lot, and it feels weird to hold them up here. Anyway, so there's five main political stereotypes that I've identified. So basically, number one is like the absolute bottom feeders, the absolute parasites, the people who are just like welfare leeches, who don't give a shit about anybody. They're just absolutely out to exploit the system for their own gain, and will do that at the expense of anybody, right? So that's like number one. And then number two, you have like the traditional conservatives, like a lot of our parents, and what you'll often hear them kind of complaining about the number ones, complaining about the bottom feeders, always like the leeches, and that's the problem, and all they're popping out kids and welfare, right? So that's one and two. Number two with the conservatives, and a lot of times the number twos, like the conservatives, like they're hardworking. They have values. They value family. They have a sense of what's right. They do have some decent values, and they're trying to raise a family. They're trying to do better and stuff like that. And they have religious values. But a lot of times they can fall into bigotry, and they can fall into these kind of fearful tribalism and stuff like that. So that's kind of their pitfall. So number three is like what I consider the SJWs, and I kind of grew into this because a lot of the SJWs, they're fighting the number twos. They're fighting the conservatives. Like a lot of us grew into this because we were fighting our parents, right? So that's where the number threes come about. So that's the SJWs. They're trying to fight the bigotry. They're trying to fight a lot of the corruption in the system that they perceive as mostly a result of the number twos. But their pitfall is that is again like we talked about, some of their mechanisms, some of their ways of dealing with things, some of their ways of thinking about things. It's just it's corrupted. It's not right. Like they've fallen into these bad patterns. And so what I consider number four is basically the edgelords, or the fucking almost like the alt-right, kind of, it doesn't have to be like, of course there's a negative and positive side, but essentially like the edgelords, alt-right, the kind of like essentially like the new right, who basically have kind of they're reacting to the SJWs. They were SJWs, but they see the problems of the SJWs, and they start to basically rather than fighting the number twos, they start fighting the SJWs, and they say like y'all are the problem and stuff, and they start to become more right leaning. They start to grow up more. They start to understand economics. They start to understand the reality of the situation.
Would you call Ben Shapiro an example of that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Like all of those guys, Ben Shapiro, Milo Yiannopoulos, Alex Jones, even like Jordan Peterson, all of these people, and I heavily identify with this kind of realm, because at best this realm is like the libertarians. These are the people who are fighting for freedom. At worst, you have. And that's the thing, is like whenever you get to some of the pitfalls of the alt-right, you have some like actual racism and fascism and misunderstanding. I consider those people not even to be number fours. I would consider those people to be the same pitfalls as the number twos. They have fear propaganda. They're very insecure, some of that. So basically, that's it. But the pure idea of a number 4 is very righteous and very identify with that. I think that's the way. I think that's like libertarian in a lot of ways. And so the number 5s, what I consider is essentially like what the kind of people that like Alex Jones would talk about a lot, which is like essentially like the basically the people the puppet masters of the left, basically like the globalists. People will say like there's a lot of like Jewish stuff involved, just like the general so like the globalists, like Hillary Clinton's, George Soros, like a lot of these really influential people, the big technology, the censorship, the totalitarianism, like a lot of these kind of scary ideas are kind of, I consider, and I call these people like vampires because that's essentially what they do. They're manipulating. So that's like kind of the 5 political stereotypes, and the ways that they interact with each other are all very interesting and whatnot. And of course, it's a little bit more complex than that, but that's just the model that I use to break it down.
I mean, I actually kind of like that model. The way I never had heard that before. Did you make that entirely up on, not make it up, but just like develop that on your own?
Yeah. I love to build models of psychology and models of sociology, and that's something I may try to work to really publicize that and get it out there, because it does help kind of simplify and break it down a little bit. But yeah, I pretty much developed it for myself for the most part.
Yeah, because the way you structured it in a way where it's like ones are just sort of on the bottom, they don't attack anyone, they're just taking advantage of the system, and then everything going up from there is attacking more or less the people below them.
Exactly, and then the number 5s are kind of the exception, because we'll say, yeah, exactly. So it's like number ones don't really attack anyone, they're just basically trying to manipulate, and they just want thinking about themselves. Number 2s are attacking number 1s, number 3s are attacking number 2s, number 4s are attacking number 3s. But the difference is, here's a big difference about number 4s versus 2s and 3s. So 2s think that 1s are the problem. Conservatives think that the leeches are the problem, but conservatives don't really see the number 5s. They don't really understand the behind the scenes. They don't really comprehend that, because they just they're like Fox News drones and stuff, and they're just basically spoon-fed things that essentially come from the same source, right? So and the number 3s, the SJWs will attack the conservatives, but they also don't. The SJWs think that number 2s are at the top. They think that the good old boys and the conservatives are truly running the show, and they're not. They do really well. They sometimes run companies and stuff like that, and yes, they're at the top. There may be some kind of ties in there like that, but essentially, that's kind of their problem, is that the 3s are kind of focused on 2, or they think that 2s are at the top, and they're attacking these like hardworking people that have values and stuff like that, whenever they should be really focused on the top. And then the number 4s, while the number 4s see the problem with 3, 2, and 1, and they also see that 5s are essentially orchestrating the whole thing, and so they're kind of attacking all of them at once. And then of course the 5s are just kind of like puppeteering the whole. the 5s are essentially trying to keep the 1s, 2s, and 3s brainwashed, and they try to suppress and censor the 4s. Like, that's essentially what's going on.
That is very interesting, and it actually seems it makes sense. Like, you definitely can see like the ties to where they're in real life, because if you look at like, we'll look at Twitter. Twitter's probably number 5, and those people there are number 5s, and you can see like the policies that they enact, they only really follow through on with certain people, usually people who would be considered like a number 4.
Yeah, watch the like the Joe Rogan Jack Dorsey podcast. It just came out. Like Tim Pool was roasting them about that. Like, and I'm assuming you watched that podcast.
Yes,
right?
I did.
So like, I mean, I feel for them. Like, they have a huge platform. It's really hard to censor this stuff, and like, so sometimes they're like, yeah, we just didn't get to that, and we're not perfect. But yeah, there's definitely hardcore left-leaning biases at play there, and across all platforms, YouTube, Facebook. Yeah, it's a problem.
Everything. No, yeah, me and my one of my good friends and I were talking about it yesterday, and we're like, yeah, the legal person who was with Jack Dorsey, she was just straight up a cunt, and there was no other way to like get around
that.
Well,
and I feel bad, because like that's her job is to be the punching bag. Like, she has to be the one to basically like apologize and stuff like that. And I actually made a meme about it. Like, I originally made a little post about it where I said that basically like. I said that Joe Rogan and Jack Dorsey basically like are just there, and Tim Pool and Vidya are just their Beyblades because they just brought them to they like turn them loose on each other. And so I made a meme where two kids are actually playing with Beyblades, and I put that I said like Joe Rogan and Jack Dorsey and whatever.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it was. Like
That's very, very what it was.
yeah, he brought Pool to just start like roasting, and then Vidya was just kind of like the politician, like yeah, like we're trying our best. Like she literally said the same thing so many times. Like
yeah, because
she's like again we're just trying to follow the rules. Again we're just trying to combat violence.
Targeted harassment.
Targeted harassment, and again like we try our best to I felt it's whatever. I felt bad, but like that's just how it is. Like I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Like and so. I don't know if you're aware, but one of my big projects is a social media platform. I've been working for the last 4 months. I kind of put all my other projects aside and focused on building this social media platform, and it's kind of gotten up and running. I'm still playing around with it, but it makes me start thinking a lot about how I want to design it and what kind of freedoms and what kind of technologies I want to have at play. And it makes me think about the ways that Facebook and Twitter are currently designed. It's definitely very interesting how these things work. Between the algorithms and the censorship and just the way they design it and stuff like that, the world of technology and social media is definitely very powerful and very interesting.
Yeah, I'm with you there for about thinking about trying to create a new social media. I was actually thinking about that before because I'm trying to figure out a way to get into just app development in general.
Yeah.
Because it seems fun and I enjoy programming enough to at least make my own thing. And I was thinking like a later project for me would be just try and reinvent the social media wheel for like maybe a specific function.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not that hard. Like
that, because there's definitely like ups and downs of all the current platforms.
Yeah.
But if you can just figure out a way to like take all the good from each of them and just meld them into something.
That's absolutely it. Like that's what like whenever you're like if you're writing a song or if you're doing a painting, like that's what you do. You take all your inspirations and you put it together and make something that's the best of everything. And that's definitely what I've become with social media for the last couple of years. I've been using Facebook heavily. I think a lot about the different platforms and what's there and what's missing and how they can improve. And it's really helped me just kind of synthesize what I think is the best of all worlds. And so now it's just kind of like continuing to build that and continuing to get people involved. But yeah, like for example, some of the big things that I noticed were like Facebook. One of the biggest problems, and a lot of them, is it's all about the feed. It's all about the feed. Like their business model is all about ads and data collection. So they want you to scroll the feed as much as possible. Like so basically they want you to be zombified. They want to give you enough content so that you're interested, but they don't want you to have enough technology to where you actually like go make real friends and go get a real like job and like go get off the platform. They want to keep you there.
Yeah.
And so that's really shitty. And also like it doesn't really have a good focus on meeting new people. It doesn't help you. Like I have like 4,000 something friends, and I have a really hard time keeping up with who's who. So it doesn't have very good tools for organizing that. Definitely the locality thing is a big focus of mine. Like it doesn't help you like things like Reddit and YouTube are out there where you can just connect to the whole internet. But like a lot of times as you get older, you want to like have a local community. So that's an important thing. And there's just so many components from there.
Yeah, the local community thing is definitely a part of the American community that we've lost with the internet more so.
Exactly.
Because at least before the internet was as big as it was, a lot of people or at least had a local community with their church or with something else like that. But now it's sort of, at least I'm seeing the younger generations lose that sort of local community other than like their close friends that they already have.
Yeah.
But they don't have like a mechanism to make new friends like the way.
Yeah, there's just the tools are not there. Like the potential is there. We have the internet's there, but we don't have a platform that's designed to be conducive to those kinds of relationships. And unfortunately what it's doing is like you're saying, it's kind of forcing people to choose to where it's basically like if they're going to be online, then they're kind of like sucked into these online communities completely and they kind of lose touch with their local community in reality, or people kind of just get sucked into their local community and all like completely lose track of the awesome tools that the internet provides. So that was how it all started for me. It was like I wanted to bridge that gap. Like my senior project was basically I did a report and I played around with a little prototype, some prototypical algorithms to say how can we bridge that gap? Like how can we take the best of things like Reddit and like whatever YouTube 4chan, like these kind of like global I call them global communities because they're just like the internet at large. And I was like, then how can we combine that with like the benefits of having a local community? Like, and so that's why I use Facebook a lot because it actually kind of started out as being focused on local community, but it also kind of has some of that.
Mhm.
So it's like I believe that of other things that are out there, I think that Facebook is the best, at least for what I'm trying to do. But it still falls short in so many ways. Um,
Yeah.
and just the fact that it's 15 years old, and just like it was designed for different purposes, and their business model, and the fact that they're so left leaning and censorship and all this bullshit. It's just like
And then how much of their data they collect on you.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is like it's like I try to promote this idea that data collection is good, but I want to be transparent about it, and I want to build a culture around it. I don't want to just like behind the scenes extrapolate data and sell it like really
Hmm.
really slimy So yeah, that's definitely something
Yeah.
I'm trying to do. I definitely have some big ideas for it, for what I'm trying to do with this platform that I'm hoping can kind of like help to bring people together in new ways and just revolutionize a lot of things. So
Hmm. I'm
definitely a
not
big
sure if
project.
you've heard about this not scandal really with Facebook, but there was an article that Chris and I had to read in our IT ethics class about how Facebook had essentially relationships with other companies, especially like Spotify and Twitter,
Yeah,
where they would be able to share your private messages with them.
yeah,
Uh, and it was very eye-opening that one that they even have a mechanism to do that,
yeah,
which means they have to be using it if they have built this mechanism, which is I find very uncomforting,
yeah.
and just sort of another reason why I've sort of stopped using Facebook except for like the essentials of it. So like I never browse Facebook just for fun. It's just always, oh, I'm gonna go talk to my friends and then hop off because this is where I can connect it with some of them.
Yeah, I guess so. That's what's interesting about me is like, and that's one of my vices is that I do get sucked into like the news feed and just like hanging out on the platform because like just because of who I am as a person, like, and who I've become, I don't actually even interact with people that much. I get kind of bored. Like a lot of people, unfortunately, I get really bored. Like especially whenever I started to trip and get into psychedelics, like I opened
Mm,
myself up to this whole new interesting world, and I found myself very isolated from other people because not many people were into that. And unfortunately, we live in a society where psychedelics and that kind of magical experience is very risky and very inaccessible and very people don't even if it is people are kind of afraid of it and they don't know what to do with it.
mm,
And so it's just kind of like I've really kind of separated myself from a lot of people in that way, and I get kind of bored. But yet I kind of use it to be kind of like an entertainer. It kind of gives me a platform to still project myself, and like
mm.
I like to interact with a lot of people at a distance. That's actually something I kind of like to do.
Okay.
And so Facebook has kind of become an interesting platform to do that, to allow me to do that. But see, so some of the things that a unique problem that I run into is that number one, I want to meet more people. Like that's how I got to 4,000 friends because I literally will browse through the suggested friends and just be like add. If we have 200 mutuals, we have 300 mutuals. It's gotten to the point where I'll have over 1,000 mutuals with someone I don't even know. Like the Facebook algorithms have like organically created a network of memers that know each other. It's very interesting.
That is
Um,
really interesting.
yeah.
I
So
didn't
yeah.
I've never really taken advantage of the suggested friends just because whenever I go on there it's always just, oh, these are all a bunch of people who are at my school who I don't talk to. I'm not just going to add them without actually talking to them before this.
Yeah, so I'll finish one point about the last thing I was gonna say, and then go into that. So the other problem that I run into is like I run into limits when I'm trying to add more people because Facebook has a 5,000 friend limit.
Hmm.
They don't want you to add people that you don't know. It doesn't give you many metrics to add people. Like if I'm trying to meet new people who play this game, or I'm trying to meet new people who like this kind of thing, it doesn't really allow for that. It's just basically a very bland, like here's a suggested friend that you just has common mutuals. So it doesn't give me very good mechanisms to meet more people. And then also, it doesn't give me, like I said before, very good mechanisms to organize the people that I already know. Like I just
Hmm.
I have a big blur of 4,000 friends, and I'm like, okay, who actually lives near me, and who likes video games, and who likes memes, and who likes this music, and who's who. Like I just lose track, and I want to be able to do that better. I want to be able to query my friends and better
Yeah.
organize it. So those are mechanisms that Facebook was never intended to do that. Like, but then again, a lot of that is kind of like going to what you're saying is like it makes me think about how I am very like again a lot of it because of psychedelics and because of my development. I kind of became like a hypersocial type person. Like you kind of talked about how like you see the suggested friend algorithms, but you kind of say, oh well, these are people that I've maybe at the school, but I don't really want to just add them that way. Our culture doesn't really think about it. Like whenever I've added people,
Hmm.
like 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 90% of the people I've met in the last couple of years have been meeting them through Facebook, talking to them, or interacting with them on the post, then meeting them in real life. So I do it that way. And
Hmm.
most people think of Facebook as like I met you in real life and I'm going to add you on Facebook to keep in touch. So like I have really utilized Facebook to do this weird thing that like our culture is not even used to. So like a lot of the times I'm trying to engineer technology, but I'm also trying to engineer culture. Like I'm trying to
Mhm.
take a new approach to how we meet people, and that's very weird for people. People are like, what the fuck? Like you're meeting people on Facebook? Like that's so strange, but it's a powerful tool.
Oh, for sure. I just never had even thought to do that because one, that's just it's not what it's intended.
Exactly.
Like, sort
Yeah,
of.
it's not designed that way. Yeah.
But like, you and I wouldn't have met if I hadn't messaged Chris, and he wouldn't have then messaged you because like, I may have met Chris in class, but we never talked in class before I added him on Facebook. I was just
Yeah.
like, I got to see what this dude's ranting about on his page at least a couple times.
Exactly, and so like, and that's, I mean, that we talked about how you met Chris, so that's how I met
Hmm.
Chris. Was just like how I've met all these people. It's just through Facebook, like through mutual friends. Like there's no like y'all live in a completely different state. Like I would have not met you. Like I think actually I'm gonna go check right now. I'm gonna see how many mutual friends I have because I may have met him through this kind of like through this meme network through these algorithms. Because I do notice that a lot of times. Let's see how many mutuals I have with him.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, I have 200. I have 200 mutuals with him, and they're all like just random. So he must do kind of the same kind of thing. Like, and what's interesting is as soon as you start to add just a couple of these people that are kind of in this network, you start to it just starts to pick up. Like I said, you start to have 30 mutual friends, 30 mutual friends, 50, 100, 200, and now it's to the point where I'll have I'm looking at, if I look at my friends list, if I look at my suggested friends right now, I see 600 mutual, 500 mutual, 300 mutual. You know, it's just like there's this huge meme network, and so it's pretty cool that kind of organically happened, just
Hmm.
because their algorithms suggest friends based on mutuals, and so it's really cool. And that's how I met Chris, and it's just really interesting stuff that's happening.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess for the most part, I just never really used Facebook at all when I
Yeah,
was growing up. Like, I'm just now starting to actually use it for its more intended usage. But
yeah.
like in high school, like I saw no point. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna update my status so everyone can see what like.
Exactly.
uh,
Well,
It didn't make
you
sense.
make a good point. You talk about the intended usage, and I want to make a point that, of course, like the way that I'm using it is not the intended usage. That's
Oh,
just kind of
of
like
course.
happened, and that's what really calls for a new platform that like actually is built upon this kind of thing that's happened.
Hmm.
And so I also wanted to talk about kind of like when it comes to social networking, like yes, there's something inherent to the tools themselves, but there's also a lot of what defines a social network is kind of like the culture around it. And so like Facebook, so at first I first got involved with Facebook back in like 2009 when I was like 14, and that was the first come up. It was kind of something new, and all the younger people were on it. But then like after a while, you know, what happened for me and my kind of generation was like our parents started to get on, and after we graduated high school, we stopped talking to a lot of these people, and we didn't want to talk to these people anymore. So it kind
Hmm.
of everybody just kind of left Facebook, and they went to Instagram and Snapchat, mostly, you know, not because it was a better technology, but just because it was the new thing. It was underground, and there weren't
Hmm.
our parents weren't on there, right? So that's something that kind of naturally drives like social media culture, I think. And so there was this kind of culture. What I have found on Facebook is that now you have these people who have kind of come back around to it. That's what
Hmm.
happened with me. Is like I kind of just checked back in every now and then, and I remember I started seeing people from my hometown who were just posting memes. And I was always involved with like 4chan around that time,
Hmm.
around 2008 or so, 2009. And I like that. I like that whole meme community and the game community and stuff like that. It was very alive. It was very relatable. And so I kind of saw these things starting to merge together. And so I started to kind of post memes, and I met more people and just started to add. And then like a lot of people, they use Facebook for events. Like you have
Hmm.
you have concerts and
Yep.
stuff. You can see which friends are going to events. And so what I started doing is like not only would I go to events, but like, so here's what would happen. I would go to like a concert, for example, and it'd be music that I like, and I'd be like, okay, or like I would go to MomoCon, and there would be like, or it's basically like a convention,
Okay.
like a nerd convention, and I don't know what
Right.
y'all have up there, but that's what we call it down here. It's called MomoCon. So I would go here, and I would see thousands of people who are just nerds who looked awesome, who I wanted to be friends with, but it's just like,
Hmm.
you know, at a concert it was too loud to talk to people. At MomoCon, there's too many people, and it's hard to have conversations. And in our culture, it's very hard to start conversations. It's hard to just walk up to someone and be like, "Hey." So what I would do is I would go to these events afterwards, and I would look at all the people who RSVP'd, and I would just start adding them. I'd be like, I'd be friends with y'all. You know, I just start adding them, and then what
Hmm.
would happen is I would keep posting memes, and so they would see my memes, and they would kind of get to know me, and we'd get to talking, and then it would just go from there. So it's just like these really interesting ways that I've used this tool to meet people.
Yeah. The use of memes is very key too, because you can tell a lot about a person by the memes that they post, which is very weird to think
Absolutely.
about.
Yeah, it
Because like,
is. It is absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I was gonna say is that like I think you had said something before that reminded me of that. So like let's say that you like you want you, let's say you get on Facebook and you see a suggested friend and you add them and you look at their profile and you're trying to get a better understanding of who they are. Like you said, like with Chris, you wanted to get on and kind of see what he's talking about and kind of get a better idea of who he is
Mm-hmm.
through that. And technology can be a beautiful way to do that. But like Facebook's not always the greatest for that. Like you kind of do have to kind of get on their page and scroll down it. And number one, our culture kind of perceives that as like weird and like creepy to go on someone's page and like scroll it. But I don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it that way at all. It's just another one of those kind of cultural things.
Especially if
Um,
it's a public page. Like unless you have your page hidden on private and we somehow
yeah,
like hack in to like see your
yeah.
page.
It's like yeah, exactly. Like the tools are there. You're posting that information, but our culturally we still kind of perceive it weird. And
Yeah.
so I want to keep coming back to this point because again, like that's my main thing is technology and culture. And so one of the things I want to point is how important culture and psychology is to this. How people perceive things, how people think about things, how things have
Mm-hmm.
been thought about for a while. And so like one thing that I want to do with my platform is I want to basically have I want to design like whenever you go look at someone's page, I want you to basically like step into their world and get a good idea of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want them to say like, here's the things that I like, here's what I believe, here's what I think. And I want there to be a culture to where that's understood. Like that's what you do. Like you know, it's not creepy to do this. Like that's what you do. You go look at someone's page. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
that's another kind of like cultural technological revolution that I'm trying to kind of build.
I think that would be really interesting in helping like break down the echo chambers that the big social media currently sort of like enables because it only if Facebook, for example, recommends you a friend based on your interests, it might recommend you on your interest of both being moderately conservative libertarians.
Right.
Like, and then eventually that just keeps building up your echo chamber,
Right.
and then at least being able to see what it is, you can see, oh, all of my friends are moderate conservative libertarians. It's like,
Exactly.
okay,
Yeah,
I should diversify a little bit.
that's a good point. Yeah, you do want you want both. Like ideally, you want to be able to connect to the people who have the same ideas as you, but
Oh
you
yeah.
also want to be exposed to people who have different ideas to challenge you.
Hmm.
And so I'm trying to do the best of all worlds. Like I'm trying to like allow you to have different groups and different communities that are based upon your different interests. Like you can have like a political group. You can have like people who share the same video games, or the people who like the same music as you.
Hmm.
Of course, people and of course like sub intersections of that. So like people who like the same music and live close by. So like I want you to be able to run these dynamic queries and run and
Yeah.
build these dynamic communities because again like you have something like Reddit where you can talk to people who like the same game as you but they're not local and
Right.
you can go walk down the street and see a bunch of people who are local but you have nothing else in common. So I'm trying to bridge that gap.
Hmm.
And like you said too, like for example when it comes to politics you want to be exposed to other ideas. So I want to create something that's kind of like a forum, like a place where you can debate others, where ideas can really clash,
Hmm.
and do so in like in a very rational way. Like of course you have a lot of violence and a lot of hatefulness and a lot of whatever whenever it comes to political shit. But I want to create this kind of space to where we can freely express ourselves, in a rational way.
Hmm. I feel like that's the big thing that's sort of missing with social media nowadays is that it's very just not yelling at each other, but there's no way to moderate it well. Like
Yeah,
Reddit
exactly.
and 4chan, weirdly enough, do it the best.
Yeah, by kind of not doing it, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know about Reddit. I've never been a big Redditor, but I do kind of understand 4chan. Like 4chan, my understanding of 4chan is that they basically just follow like the absolute legal minimums, like they like terrorism and
Hmm.
like child pornography and stuff like that. Like and they enforce that kind of stuff. But other than that, it's like pretty free game. And that's how my goal is to do that basically. Like it was actually interesting. So basically. I wasn't even thinking about creating a feed or like a chat-based thing yet. Whenever I designed my platform, I was more so focused on like being able to kind of organize and query your friends. But
Hmm.
I created a little chat room just as like a kind of a component on my app, and so a lot of these kind of like alt-righty, edgelordy memers got on from my Facebook because I was posting about it. And people started like dropping the N-word and talking about like Jews and talking about all this really edgy shit, and I was just like, and I was kind of letting it go, but then like I kind of like only like one person had said like the N word for example,
Hmm.
and I cut it out because like I was trying to show people at work my app and I didn't want like all this shit on there, and I was like I didn't think it was that big a deal because I figured these people they came in, they just trolled, wrote some shit, and they left. But so it turns out this guy who wrote it like came back and said like, why did you delete my comment? Like he actually came back and noticed that I deleted his comment and said something about it. And I was like, I'll be honest, like if I knew you were coming back, I wouldn't, you know, if I knew you were gonna make this big of a deal, I wouldn't have deleted it. Like I'm not actually trying to get into like this kind of like, I'm not actually trying to get into the actual rules of how I'm going to moderate this yet, but it did force me to ask that question. It did force me to say, how am I going to confront this situation? And so what I decided to do is I was going to say, hey, a space for everybody. A space for everybody. So what I'm going to do is basically have like, here's a chat room where you can say whatever the fuck you want. And basically everybody who goes into this chat room checks a little box that says, I agree to not report this shit. You like, you know, it's just like,
and
whatever.
not be a little bitch about it.
Yeah, to not be like, I can handle it. Like, let me in. And if you can't handle it, and that's the thing. Like, I got so pissed off because I would post things on Facebook and they would get reported. I'm like, why the fuck don't you just unfollow me? Like, why? Like, why should you be able to police and censor me whenever you can just walk away? That's what's fucked up, especially on the web. You know, it's one thing if I'm running around on the street in your face saying this shit and you can't walk away from it. But like on the internet, you can easily just get off. So that's what I want to do. And so what I told this person is like, I'm going to create a room where you can say whatever you want. But here on this main page where I want to kind of keep it clean, like I'm gonna moderate this stuff, you know. So that's kind of how I want to do it. And 4chan does that. 4chan's like you got your you know your safe for work stuff. You got your not safe for work. You got people that moderate it based on certain things. If you say certain, you know, it's just, and that's it. Like you play by the rules. And if you don't like it here, well, here's a place for you. If you want to play by, if you want to have no rules, and you know, here you go. So.
Yeah, that's very similar to, not similar to Reddit, because they definitely moderate a lot more than that. But like the idea of just everyone having their own little forums to like talk about their different things, like very similar to subreddits and. So
another component of that I really want to do is I kind of want to divide like how you represent yourself on the web. I want to divide it into three main categories that you can switch between interchangeably at your will. So number one is like the most transparent. It's like your real name, like your real life persona, like who you actually are. Number two is like a nickname or like so it's something that can be used to identify you, but it's like it may be partially anonymous or it may be kind of like, you know, a different persona or a different character. And then number three is totally anonymous. So I want to provide like different spaces where you can kind of interact in different ways and you can do things interchangeably at your will, because like, you know, like Facebook, for example, like people they want to represent themselves to some extent on Facebook, but they don't want people from work getting on there, but they don't want to be totally anonymous. So it's kind of like I want to, again, a space for everybody is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that's a really good plan. Once you can implement that, that'd be really cool, because be able to like just randomly switch out in between different things. Like, oh, I am gamertag123. Yeah. I'm also Kyle Anderson, and then I'm also just a question mark that no one will ever know who posted this.
Yeah, it'd be really fun, because sometimes you just want to say that this is me and my complete transparent self. Sometimes you want to be totally anonymous and not liable for what you're saying. And then sometimes like you want to say something and kind of have a mask. You want to play a character, but you still want there to be some mystery behind it. You know, so it's just fun. I like it. I like the different kind of modes. And the reason I kind of came across that is because there's a lot of things that I want to implement. There's a lot of interesting mechanisms I'm trying to build into the site, and I think it'll be beneficial to do this kind of thing. Like one of the things I'm really trying to do is, and you may have heard about this, apparently they're already doing this in China, but I basically, in the same way we have a credit score, I want to kind of have like a social score. Like this person's like an asshole. This person gets like good reviews. Like people speak highly of this person. This person's a high moral character. You know, so I want you to be able to do that. And sometimes I want that to be an anonymous critique. You can review someone anonymously and so forth. But of course there will be a component. There will be a representation of you that is transparent, where people can go and review you. So like. So that's kind of, I'm trying to play around with these different kind of things to better build almost like build a database of people.
Yeah, it's definitely, it would be interesting to have that. I'm just concerned that what if somebody, just to say, your employer stops using the Facebook and stops using Facebook to get your information and goes to this, and also is able to see your rating based on what other people think of you.
So I think that would be good. So it could be bad, because it could be bad if a bunch of people. Well, so number one, if you're an asshole and people are calling you an asshole, then that makes you accountable. That makes you say, oh, shit, I need to do something. I need to make it better. And of course you can go on this platform and you can defend yourself. If someone says you're an asshole, you can reply to that and you can say, well. And here's another thing too. So if someone, let's say that someone is an asshole, and they go on your page and they call you an asshole, but everyone knows that they're an asshole and everyone gives them bad ratings. So that's going to weigh in. if that makes sense.
Okay.
So basically, like their opinion of you, if they call you an asshole, is going to be like less weighted because their social score is lower. So
All right.
that's gonna be a big thing. And here's the thing too.
All right.
If you
Yeah.
establish that this is a platform where people review you, then what you want to do is you want to create a good score for yourself. So you're gonna go to past employers, you're gonna go to your family friends, you're gonna go to your friends, and then you're gonna say, hey, come on and review me. Like, come on and give me good ratings because my employers are gonna look at this. So that it could be something that's actually could be used for good. And I think
Yeah.
I believe that the more transparency, the better. Of course.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I say. Like, it always works that way. Like, I say, hey, I want to create a system where people can review you. And of course, your first thought is like, well, that could be good, but that could also be really bad. But then you think about it. For every bad, there's always a solution that involves more transparency. Transparency is always the key. Like, again, like, people could call you an asshole, but people know that they're an asshole. So it's just like, that's how it works.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would definitely be interested to see how it ends up working out, and if it's ever gets abused by the system, which I feel like someone will abuse it. But it's all, again, if you know that person's an asshole, or if new accounts carry less weight than older accounts and such, like, and sort of metrics like that to determine how the asshole meter is scored.
Asshometer.
Asshometer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's definitely very complicated. I've spent a lot of time like mapping it out, thinking about it, fine tuning it, and now that I'm putting it into practice, I'm kind of seeing how people are interacting with it, how they're using it. That's one of the things I'm really running into now. One of the biggest problems is like kind of for a while my problem was so number one, my problem was thinking about the technology. Number two was building the technology, but I've already done that. So number three is like helping people understand, like conveying the idea of how it's supposed to be used. And
what is this app called, and is it on the iTunes store?
Yeah. So you can actually go check it out right now. Just go to Safari. Just go to the internet and type in www.nectar, Nector, like as in connector.
www. Any what?
Nectar, Nector.com, and I'll pull it up. I have
it. Nectar.
Nectar. Yeah.
NTOR. Okay.
Nector. Nectar.
Okay. .com.
Yeah, so you should be able to go. It'll prompt you to like log in or register, so you can just register real quick.
Privacy policy. Blah, blah,
there's no privacy. There's no privacy policy.
I know it keeps. That's the page that popped up though.
It may say something about like it's not secure. Like if you actually, so that's the problem right now. Like the website actually is secure if you manually type in HTTPS, which is like that's what adds security to a website. It'll be secure. But unfortunately, if you type in www.nectar, it still goes to like a place that doesn't have that secure protocol. Anyway, it's fine. So yeah, you go there, and whenever it asks you for your name, put in your full name. A lot of people go, oh shit, it's only asking for your name. So basically, you put in your email, your password. It asks you for your name, and then basically it has you fill out a profile, which is basically just your basic info, and then some of your. You'll see down below there's an interest tree. I need to pull it up. I wonder if I can. Let's see if I can pull it up I need to pull it up on the stream right now. Actually, this would be a good opportunity. I was thinking about making a stream to like run through this. I'm gonna do it. Fuck it. I'm gonna see if I can pull this up. Let's see how I can do this.
Nectar.com.
Nectar. Let me do this. Let me go to plus and window.
It's not secure. Blah blah blah. Related. Oh.
There we go. Got it. Let me do back.
Register card. Active agave nectar. What is?
Oh, you must be on the wrong thing. You must like nector. Here, I'll just give you a link. I'll just give you.
nector.com. Yeah, that's what I got. It just keeps sending me to www1.
Sorry. It's not .com. It's .world. That's why. That's my bad. My bad. Yeah, I had to I registered under a different domain. It's .world. That's it's totally confusing. I'm sure. Sorry.
It's all good. Nectar.
Cool. We're gonna do a live demo of Nectar here.
.world. All right.
I need to show what it looks like if you actually come to it fresh. I don't know if it's gonna let me do it fresh because I actually am already logged in. But if I go to it fresh and I say, I'm gonna say you can't see my stream unfortunately, but if you're on the homepage, are you on the homepage now?
I'm signing in right now, real quick.
Yeah. So you say sign up. You type in an email, so I can just make up an email. I don't have good validation right now. Make a password. create account, and it says, welcome, my name is Nectar. I'm here to help you connect. What is your name? And so type in your full name there.
Okay.
I've already done Tyler Neutron, so I need to do. And a lot of my friends were just typing in their first name, and I need to correct that. Like type in your full name. So it said you type in your full name, and so one thing that's interesting from here is that basically you can get on this platform and you can add like kind of a placeholder account for someone, if that makes sense. Like let's say that you're trying to, it's almost like your personal contacts for your phone, where you basically you enter in someone's name and so that you can keep in touch, so that you can keep track of your friends. You can do this on Nectar, and if they come to the platform later, and then they log in, what it does is it searches and says, hey, has someone already created a placeholder account for you? Has someone already like put your name in the system to, because basically whenever someone creates a placeholder account, that can be used to again help them keep track of their friends, and it's kind of a way to kind of incentivize people to get on the platform. But if no one's done that, if no one's actually added an account for you, then what it does is it just says, nice to meet you. I'd like to know a little bit more about you. This basic info will help your friends find you and will help you find new friends as well. So you hit next, and you're on this screen that says edit person. And so from there, you basically just say, gender, age, you say city, state, and I need to do a lot more form validation. The state is supposed to be the abbreviation of your state, not the like. If it's Georgia, it's GA, it's GA, not Georgia. And so then you scroll down, and it says interest, and so you can, and this is not very clear too. You can actually click on where it says interest, and so there's some other categories that come up.
Ooh, this is a very large tree.
Oh yeah. And so like building. So just some context into the development of this app. This tree component was one of the first things that I built, and it was so complicated. That was before I really understood the technology. But that's what helped me understand web development and understand React and stuff. And so I built this big tree, and people can add things to it. And what was really
international jewelry.
Yeah. So if you go to other. Okay, hold on. Well, you may have seen international jewelry. Okay, that's under the cultural. So this is what happens whenever you allow people the freedom to do something. They start fucking. So what? Originally people kept putting all this crazy shit in here and kept littering the tree with shit. So if you go to the other category, you'll see a whole bunch of random porn stars and porn categories and things about Hitler and whatever the fuck. Like people are just fucking retarded. And then so the main ones that I built originally was cultural, conceptual, and hobbies. Those are the main three. So if you expand cultural, yes, aside from international jewelry that someone put there, you have websites, you have narrative, which covers TV shows and movies, and books and stuff. You've got music, which of course breaks down, and you've got games, which break down into subcategories and break down into genres. And what you can essentially do is you can basically, if you hit the arrow next to it, so like I'm underneath music right now, and I'm underneath electronic music, and I hit the arrow, and you'll notice that basically like the whole pathway to that node turns red. So if I select EDM, basically EDM turns red, music turns red, culture turns red, and interest turns red. And what that means is that it's basically building your tree. It builds your tree. If you select that node, it needs to have all the parent nodes. And you can then collapse that node, and you can move down, and you can say, okay, so that was all my cultural interests. So let me go to my conceptual interest now. So conceptual interest is more like academic interest. So it's like, if you're into politics and economics and history, then you'll go to culture sciences. If you're into more like psychology and sociology and stuff, you'll go under social sciences. If you're into chemistry and biology, you'll go into physical sciences. If you're into business and technology and finance, you'll go into business science, and so forth. So that's kind of a way to break that down. And so for me, for example, I'm very interested in psychology, so I'll select psychology. You'll notice that it does the same thing. The interest is already highlighted, but it'll highlight conceptual, it'll highlight social, it'll highlight psychology. And so now we'll go down to hobbies, and I'll say, okay, well, someone added the blood of my enemies, drinking the blood of my enemies. I'm going to say nerdy interests. I'm going to say I like video games and memes, and I'm going to collapse that. I added one called archetype, which is kind of like hobbies. It's kind of just like an overall at a glance, like who is this person? Aesthetic. Someone added thought. Nerdy, jockey, hipster. That's kind of that's what that's going to be. And you'll notice you can add something. So if I go under archetype and I type hipster and I hit plus, then it actually adds that category, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I already added Fallout 4 under your RPG games.
Nice, hell yeah. Let's see. I'm actually interested to see if it. because one thing I was trying to test is like real time. Like whenever you added it, you may have noticed it that it showed up there. Now I'm curious if it showed up for me because I haven't refreshed the page. So you said under cultural games,
single player
RPG. So no, so I guess if someone else adds it, it doesn't quite update real time. But if I refresh my page right now, it should. So I'll check that in a second. So yeah, that's basically an archetype, was just something I played around with. Other was where I put all the fucking weird porn that people added. And then I added something for people because I wanted to start keeping track of inspirational people. And Alex Jones is like who I wanted to keep track of people who were interested in Alex Jones. I need to add some other people there so it doesn't seem like it's only Alex. I'm gonna add Terrence McKenna because that's another big person.
Terrence McKenna. Yeah, he's good.
I'm a big fan of Terrence McKenna. So basically, you can fill out your interest tree. Everything that you hit the arrow next to, it'll populate it. You can have your basic info, and you hit submit, right? So after you hit submit, what it should do is it should basically go to what is your profile page. I don't know if you're there yet, but if you're at your profile page, it says your name at the top, and then it has a little thing underneath called stars, which is what I'm going to use to kind of help. Like basically, the more that you contribute to the system, the more that you interact with the system, I'm going to give you like you're going to get stars, and you're going to be like it's like kind of a gamification type thing.
All right.
So are you on your profile page now?
I'm trying to be.
Are you still filling out interest, or what are you doing?
No, I had to reload the page.
It's buggy sometimes. So what happens if you reload the page and it asks you to like log in again? You should be able to you can hit the profile button at the top, and it should take you to your profile. Yeah, again, it is kind of janky. Like I've built all this from scratch by myself within the last couple months, and I've fleshed out a lot of the bugs, but sometimes it'll still be buggy. My best suggestion is that if you get stuck, just hit the buttons at the top, like hit the home or profile button, or just refresh.
I got application error. An error occurred in the application, and your page blah 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 blah.
You may have crashed. You crashed the whole thing. Very nice.
Wonderful.
It's all good. I can actually reboot it from my console right here. Yeah. So I need to.
I crashed the whole website.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, but it's honestly not that hard to do. Like it is kind of a shitty. It needs to be improved. So I'm restarting it right now. I should be back up in a minute or two here. Let's see if it's back up. So you can hit. Let's see. I'm gonna try to see if it's back up yet. Yeah, that's definitely. Of course, it's fun to add new features and all that stuff, but you have to do a lot of cleanup, and you have to do a lot of stuff to like keep it from crashing. So. Just part of it.
The magic of the internet.
Oh yeah, man. All right, so it should be back. Oh, what the fuck? That's weird. It took me to your page. I wonder why it did that.
Huh?
Maybe it's because it was some kind of like history log did or something. I don't know. But if you reload the page now and you may be back on the home page or something, you may and see what happens, and then you can hit profile, see if that works.
Yep.
All right. So are you on your profile now?
I am logging in right now.
You shouldn't. By the way, you shouldn't have to log in. Just like other websites, you shouldn't have to log in again. Even though it asks you to log in, you can just hit the profile.
Well, yeah.
You can try to hit the profile button, and it may take you straight to your profile.
There we go.
Cool.
Okay.
So it says Kyle Anderson. It says stars.
0.
Yeah.
Basic info. Where does it show? Oh, there's the interest.
So you should be able to hit the basic info, and mine's kind of buggy right now. I don't know if mine's working right, but you should be able to hit the basic info. It should say like your age and your location and stuff. So you can hit the more, and you'll see interest, and you can basically see mine's kind of buggy too. I don't know if mine even saved. So if you hit more and hit interest, do you see some of the interest that you actually put in there?
I can click interest, but it doesn't show that I have any interest.
So yeah, damn it. So basically, what that should show, it may be kind of buggy right now, but and it's been working for the most part. It's basically whenever you expand the interest, it should not be the full tree, but it should be the ones that you had filled out, basically.
Yeah.
I may go check the back end here in a little bit to see if those data structures actually populated, to see if it actually did save what you like.
I'm checking right now. Nope, it did not save Fallout 4.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say like I'm actually going to the database to see if that information's like I'm seeing if it didn't save it at all, or if it just isn't populating on the page, like doing some basic troubleshooting right now. I'm just curious to see. I do want to see if it did save it. But yeah, so that's the idea, is that you have your interest, and if you go to network, that's where you can start to kind of like manage your connections. You see there's an ad feature. If you go to that ad there, that's what I was talking about earlier, where you can add your friends to the system to help keep track of them. Kind of like on Facebook, I have like 4,000 friends, and I can't keep track of who's who. So I need some way to kind of break it down and remember like who knows who and stuff. So what I'll do is, even if my friends aren't on this platform, it's like it kind of functions as my personal kind of contacts. Like I can kind of keep track of, I can come and I can add my friend and what they like,
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot. And then I can search. If you go to search, you have to. Unfortunately, it's like you have to perfectly type it. It has to be case sensitive. But if you were to go to search and you type in like Tyler Neutron and hit submit, it should go to my page. Then again, it might be kind of. I haven't been working on it in a few days, so it looks like a lot of stuff is kind of broken.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna type your name. I'm gonna type Kyle, and actually, because I don't think Tyler Neutron's not on here. It's my actual name. It's Tyler Crawley. So I'm gonna type Kyle Anderson and hit search, and there you go. It brings me to your page. It says your basic info, and yeah, your interests aren't populating though, so that may not have.
I just resubmitted some interests. We're gonna see how this goes.
Huh? I noticed. Yeah. So if you go to your profile now and you hit edit profile and you build some of those interests, we'll see if it populates now. Yeah. See what happens. I'm gonna test it myself here. It looks like it works if you do that now. Like if you go to your profile and you hit edit profile and you add interest that way, it should work. So I don't know if you tested it yet. I'm actually gonna go search on you. I'm gonna go search for your page and it looks like I think you were number. I think you were. Yeah, you were number user 99. I am
Cool.
my account that I just created, Tyler Neutron 2, is number 100. Hi.
Oh, nice.
100 users, even though a lot of them are fucking trolls and shit. So nice. I see you. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, I see it. I see your music, EDM, dubstep, drum and bass. That's what's up. Look at that. See, this is what I'm saying. Like I can learn about you. Like like you know the pretense for conversation may not have been there. Like it may have been a while before we started talking about music. But like I can I can be like, who is Kyle? Like who is this person? Okay, what is he interested in? What kind of cultural? Like what kind of music do you like? Oh, okay, EDM. Okay, dubstep, drum and bass. And so what'll happen is what I want to start to do too is I want to start to create some algorithms that essentially like take this and it starts to match you based on this stuff. It starts to say, hey, here's other people who live nearby, who have the same political interests as you, who like the same music as you, and so forth. And once it starts to operate on a larger scale, you'll start to meet a lot of new people. You'll start to keep in touch with all your friends and stuff. And so I want to. Yeah, go ahead.
I like that a lot. When I was originally thinking of just like features for like what I would do with the social media, I was thinking of when you want to create like an event, let's just call it, with your friends, and you just want to like not think about, oh, what are we going to do? Are we going to go to a brewery tour? Are we going to go to the bar? Whatever. But like
it'll suggest it for you.
Yeah, it suggests
absolutely.
It for you.
Yeah, I'm definitely I definitely want to more and more start to incorporate machine learning and artificial intelligence and say, hey, you guys all like dubstep, and hey, look, y'all all want to hang out. Y'all all live in the same area. Here's like fucking Skrillex is coming to town. Like y'all should do this. And dude, I want to take that to the next level. Like I actually want the computer to start organizing the events themselves. I want the computer to start being like, here's a good date. Here's a good time where all these people are available. Here's an artist that's available that wants to go on tour. Here's a location. And it just like throws it all together. And like you start to have this artificial intelligence that's like managing this entire social sphere. It could be kind of weird and scary to think about, but it can also be very fucking dope.
Yeah, it can be as long as it doesn't end up like turning on us, it could be very amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you want to do when you get into artificial intelligence. You want to try to manage it and stay in control and stuff. And of course, I'm gonna work to do that. But yeah, like that's definitely the idea, because like I became that person. Like I became an event planner and a community builder, and we need a lot more of those. But I found that it'd be easier just to like what Nectar is trying to do is like part of it is like the technology trying to do that itself, and part two is trying to help people to become that and help people like help to change our culture, help people to start to think about meeting new people and start to think about doing more of these things. And so I wanted to spotlight one more feature, like pretty much. So if you go under network and you go under connections and you go under queries, and I'm pretty sure this feature is actually busted right now, but if you go to if you hit new query, and you can name the query. So I think the only query that works right now is basically the all query, like so basically querying everybody's in the system. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in the query name. I'm gonna say all, and all I have is the name and the gender and the interest. And if you leave it set to blank, it's just gonna do neither. And I'm just gonna leave the interest set to blank too. And I'm just going to hit submit. And what that's going to do is return a list of everybody that's in the system. And that's like an all kind of thing. And of course, like you can start to get the idea from there. You can start to query. You can say, hey, I'm looking for people who live in the same city who like, you can start to manually query if you want to. But then the system is also going to start to, like I said, start to make suggestions based on this behind the scenes as well.
Alrighty, I'm going to see if I can add you. So is it just Tyler?
What do you mean? What do you mean add me?
Like add you as a connection. I'm gonna see if I can.
So it doesn't actually. There's actually not. That actually doesn't exist yet. Like that's actually something. So like
Okay.
you can query in the sense of like you can this. Okay, I'm trying to let me break this down. So you could add me, but I'm already
Mhm.
here. Like what that add button means is basically you're adding someone to the platform who was not there before.
Okay.
What I should probably build into the system is a way to like you're saying, like I'm adding you as a connection, like we know each other. I'm working
Mhm.
on that, but right now what that add does is it adds it adds a profile to the system, but
All
there's not a
right.
connection. I need see again. This is what I'm talking about. Like you're trying to help your users understand like what you're doing and stuff. So it's really fun. So the search, obviously search, the query lets you return like a list. And one
Mhm.
thing you'll notice if you did run that query and you go back to your profile, and you expand the queries again, that query will show up. So it keeps a history of your previous queries and stuff. So like if you want to go in and query and say, hey, I'm looking for people who live close to me who like dubstep.
Mhm.
So then it creates this list, and you can now go back to that, and it helps you organize your friends.
All right. So just as of right now, though, there's no like my friends or anything. It's just everyone's just on the
Yeah.
site.
So
Okay.
what I'm gonna do is basically have a metric that's essentially kind of like I was thinking about like I think three or four like four levels I think of like how you know people. So like 0 is like everybody is a 0 to you by default.
Mhm.
That means you just have no idea who they are. A 1 is basically someone that you have an impression of, you have an idea of, like you've seen of them, you've met them once or something. It's like the very first level. Number 2 is like you have a better idea, you have a pretty good idea of who this person is. You've seen a little bit more about him. You've met him a couple times. You've met him in real
Mhm.
life. 3 is like I spent a significant amount of time with this person. Like I know this person very well. And so these are some like basic kind of categories. And then what you can do from there is you can start to like that's how you kind of organize your friends. You say here are the people that I know really well, here's the people I don't know so much.
Mhm.
And you can organize it based on that. You can say, okay, hey, query my friends who are all 4s or sorry, 3s and so forth.
All right.
Yeah, so those are some features. That I have a lot of different features planned. It's really fun to play around with different things. And so the only other thing I've added a home screen that has like a frequently asked questions where I'm trying to kind of convey this kind of stuff. And then I added the little chat feature, which you can say at the top. And of course, there's a lot of fucking crazy shit going on here. Yeah, actually, this dude who was saying all this edgy shit, like I actually had a conversation with him. I was kind of like, fucking, why are you saying this shit? And like, yada yada yada. And you could actually test it right now. You could say something. I'm gonna say test and submit it. And it may not be real time. Like you had to either submit something or refresh the page to see what I just typed.
Mhm.
But you should see where I say test, and you could submit something too, and I could see if it comes up.
Test. Okay. Yep, it's there.
And I'm gonna say test 2. Oh yeah, so yeah, you haven't typed it yet. Okay. Test dab 3. Boom. So yeah, that's kind of a little chat feature I added. Just kind of play around with. So yeah.
Nice. I mean, mid dab. My bad. No, the site definitely like looks like it's going to be something really cool once it gets built up a lot more. I like the where it's going for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
like the idea of being able to like search people based on their interests, I feel like that hasn't really been done really well at all with any of the other
Absolutely.
platforms.
And that's where it all started. Like that. Like so. Those were like the very 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 core ideas. Like way back when I first had this idea,
Hmm.
was like searching by interest. Like literally for my senior project, that's what I did. I was like search by interest, and I think that was mostly it. Like search. And locality. Like search
Hmm.
by. So basically being able to query by different parameters. Like actually treat it like a database. Because of course, like Facebook and all these platforms, they have these kind of metrics and these kind of query mechanisms behind the scenes, but they just use it to query your data. They use it to like, they sell it. They sell your data. But what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to leverage that data for the user and
Hmm.
help people get more used to the idea that like, I mean, data collection is a thing. So we need to number one, we need to get that put that power in people's hands and show them
Hmm.
why it's good. And that also helps them become more familiar with it. So that's what I'm really trying to do with this. Like most people don't even know what query mean. A lot of people don't know what query even means. Like so, it's like this is SQL query. Like new generations are
Yeah.
becoming more familiar with coding and databases and mechanisms like that. So
Yeah. When you were first talking about this website before I actually got onto it, I was thinking, so it's like jQuery but for social media.
yeah. Pretty that's how it started because I was like
Hmm.
I remember I was on Google Drive and I created an Excel sheet to try to to try to keep up with my different friends and like to try to organize into different groups, but it was just like so shitty. And I was like, I need to design something that does this better. And so I started playing around with different things, and yeah, it just all. I was a community builder. I built community, and I want to meet more people, and I just and it all. Like I tell a lot of people that like I had never experienced anything like this in my life before, where it was like everything in my life was like pointing towards this. It was like everything that I was trying to do and everything that I was like, this is what you need to do. And so that's what allowed me to like basically like for the last, let's see, start like last four months or so. I just like, I had some programming experience from school. I've already graduated. I had a little bit of web development experience, but I basically kind of started from there. This is all built using React. So basically Facebook.
Okay.
So basically JavaScript. Traditionally, I don't know. Have you taken a web development course, or do you know much about web development?
Not a lot about web development. I'm just trying to teach myself right now.
Absolutely. So like it starts out with HTML, and then there's HTML is like the functionality. CSS is like the how it looks. JavaScript kind of helps to create more like actual like HTML is like the forms and the buttons, but JavaScript is like what happens when you hit the buttons and stuff and more stuff. Yeah. And so basically what this is used, basically Facebook built something called React.js, which uses JavaScript, but then it kind of built off of that, and it allows you to do a lot of crazy stuff. And so that's what this is built using. And I basically just started from scratch. I got on udemy.com, and I watched a tutorial and did a sample project, and then I started to play around with it, and I just built it from there.
Nice. I'm assuming do you just run the website from your laptop, or do you have your own server or something that you're running it on?
So basically it is deployed to something called Heroku, which is like a cloud server.
Okay.
And so basically like the database is using Mongo. Mongo. So if you've heard of SQL, so basically Mongo is like a no SQL. It just uses like a JSON data type, which is like it's not like a grid like Excel.
Yeah.
It's more like a hierarchy, kind of like the tree that you saw. That's how it stores the data, and it stores it on the cloud. And then my entire app runs on Heroku. So like whenever you just crashed it, it crashes on Heroku. It crashes on the cloud. And so I have to from my computer I can run a command that restarts it on the cloud.
Oh, that's cool.
And of course, while I'm developing it, I run it on my computer just in a test environment. But that's so I was really fortunate to find like the fact that we have the internet, the fact that we have resources like people back in the day would have had to read a book, but I can go to udemy.com. I found a course that was literally like how to build a social site using React. And so I did that, and it taught me all like start to finish how to build it, how to build everything, and yeah.
Okay, thank you for this website. Does it cost money?
What, Heroku?
No, Udemy.
Oh, Udemy is beautiful. Yeah, so the courses that I did, a lot of times they're really cheap. Like I did this course for like $10, and it was literally like a perfect start to finish React.js, how to build a social media site. And I was like, well, that's fucking exactly what I'm trying to do. That's beautiful.
Is it like a cost per course? And it's
you basically buy the course, and it is the resources are very good. It's broken down really good. You can fast forward it. You can slow it down. There's comments. There's troubleshooting. You can reach out to the people. There's a couple of good people that this course was by Brad Traversy. He's a really good web development guy. There's another guy. He's like a Swedish dude. You'll come across him. Like as you start to dive in, if you get on YouTube. Like before I even decided what kind of framework I wanted to use, I did a lot of research and like what's the best framework, what's the best modern framework, like what's the difference between, so I like you'll hear like if you want to get into web development, you'll hear about, and web development is like that's what's happening. Like most people are doing shit in web development. JavaScript is like the most popular language. Oh shit, there it goes.
God damn it, fucking dog.
Technical difficulties.
All right.
And we're back with Kyle Anderson.
With the
after the commercial break. I need to start having some. I need to have some sponsors. I'm gonna get. Once I start getting bigger, I'll have some sponsors. That's what I need to do. And I'll plug the sponsor right now. Let me take this opportunity to plug Chick-fil-A.
Ooh, Chick-fil-A. Eat more chicken.
Eat more chicken. Is that their slogan? No, that's not. I think it is.
I think so.
Eat more chicken.
It's at least what the cow. It's like the sign that the cow holds when he's.
Yeah, I think Chick-fil-A was started in Atlanta, but I guess you know about it, so it must have made its way up there.
I like Chick-fil-A. It's good.
Yeah.
It's just not near me anymore.
That's what I'm gonna start doing until I have actual sponsors. I'm just gonna start grabbing brands that are around me and just be like, Lay's. and eventually these corporate people will be like, hey, thanks for the free plug, man.
Yeah, dude.
We'll give you free Lay's for life.
Or they'll be just like, yo, you talked about something that we don't want you talking about.
More likely, that's what'll happen.
And now here's you're getting sued.
And now we're gonna kill you. Yeah, I don't know, man.
America.
Ooh,
Aloe vera. What the fuck is this?
Yeah, so that's pretty much that's kind of like I'm glad we actually got into this because I was actually thinking about doing a video like a solo video just to kind of cover Nectar and like what I'm trying to do with it and kind of like a walkthrough and stuff. So this has been pretty dope for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been very informative. So where do you post these?
The videos. I've been posting them to YouTube and I'll share them to Facebook or I'll share them to Facebook. I need to start uploading them to Facebook, but I really like to put them on YouTube because you can like fast forward it if like you can like watch it and you can speed it up if you want to watch it faster and stuff. But yeah, I'll upload it to Facebook or YouTube and Facebook probably and keep it going. What's
your channel?
I was gonna say it's just my name. It's just like Tyler Crawley. I was gonna make a separate channel for Tyler Neutron probably. I'll probably do that, but I'll definitely plug you into that and I'll plug it in the future and whatnot. And yeah, I was about to say
I feel like I spelled that wrong.
You may not be here. I may just have to give you a link to it after, because you may not be able to search it because there's probably other ones that come up and stuff. But yeah, I was about to say my voice is getting kind of hoarse. I'm glad you kind of gave me this opportunity to go through Nectar for sure, and I think it was hopefully I conveyed it to you at least. Maybe we can call it. We can kind of call it a stopping point there, and we can think about some other topics to talk about next time and keep it rolling.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Cool, man. Thanks for coming.
See ya.
All right, peace, man.